Welcome back to the Trifecta Airsoft Podcast. I'm your host, E-Rock. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already so you never miss another podcast. Also, do me a favor. Go on to whatever podcast app you listen to us on and give us a rating and review. That really helps us rank in the searches. Thank you so much. Let's get into the podcast. I know, right? When I started doing these podcasts like remote like this, somebody commented like this is a long time ago. They were like, "Well, I like the podcasts that are done in like a studio. Like this remote thing is just weird." I'm like, "It's not weird. Like, how is it weird? Like, who flies people around the world to sit in your studio except Joe Rogan? Okay, like, bro."
First of all, most people who do the podcast in studios and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they had to get there, and they get there from doing stuff like this. And even then, you usually have to fly yourself out. They just host you once you're there, so it's like,
Right.
I don't know.
Hell yeah, man.
The majority of naysayers on things are people who don't do the thing.
I know, right? What's that one movie that Jack Black was in? I think it's School of Rock. He's like, those that can't do teach, and those that can't teach phys ed.
Yeah.
So hell yeah. So what's up, man? I just found your Instagram like a couple days ago.
Yeah,
Or I think yesterday. Yeah.
it's weird because it's like it has like I haven't been active for a little bit, and it's mainly because I changed jobs. So when I changed jobs, my weekends got kind of messed up. But
Okay.
everything's stabled out now, so I'm going to be posting more.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I saw you comment on. Oh man, I can't remember whose post it was, but it was somebody's that I just found recently, and I really can't remember, but it was like literally the same day that I texted you, and I saw you had made a comment on one of these guys' posts or whatever, or oh no, you liked somebody's post, and this somebody was someone I didn't follow, and I think they're in where are they at? Italy, Germany,
Oh, okay. What's his?
and I just
There's
followed
two.
all these guys.
Yeah, there's two people that I follow that are well, three people that I follow that are overseas. One dude's in South America. Um, I follow Skinny Bitch. She's in.
Yeah,
I
uh,
follow her, and then I
Austria,
follow. Huh?
or is she in Austria?
No, she's in. Keep wanting to say Belgium.
Netherlands?
It's not. I keep wanting to say Belgium. It's not Belgium. I think like
Yeah,
Denmark or somewhere up there.
Denmark. Yeah.
But I follow her, and then I think everybody follows Finn Patel.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I follow her too. Yeah, I'm gonna find it because when I followed this person, they followed me back, and then I saw you had liked their thing, and it was I was like, oh, I don't even know. I didn't even know these guys, and it was a group of guys. Okay, here's one of them. Gins. Gins.
so
Let's see.
I started. So those guys. I think they were at Burgett, which is the big
Yeah.
Milsom over there. I
Right.
think they had posted a bunch of pictures from there, and I'm always looking
Yep.
for stuff from over there because like that's kind of the the holy grail things that I have set up.
Okay.
You get those things where it's like, okay, well, I'm doing this. What do I want to do? So the first hole crux is Milsom West, which I'm going to
Uh
be
huh.
doing.
Okay.
Then it's going to be trying to get overseas to get to one of these fields because I was stationed in Japan, and the whole time I was stationed in Japan, I played paintball.
Oh, dude. Where were you at? Okinawa?
No, I was over in Yokosuka,
Oh, okay.
so I was
Hell yeah.
there. So yeah, I used to go down. I'd go down to Sasebo a lot, and then I go. I think I only went to Oki like once, and
Okay.
while I was there, the Marines got in trouble, so we got restricted to base.
Jeez, those dumb Marines, man. I swear.
But yeah, so good
Okay.
times. Good times. I didn't even know about
Yeah.
airsoft till I got back to the states. My buddy like got me into it. My first gun was a Thompson. I bought at Big Five in California.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I've heard of. There's a handful of people when I'm talking with them, they're like, "Yeah, I bought my first gun at Big Five." I'm like, and now, when I'm talking to them now, they're in like a different state, and I'm like, "Oh, did you live in California?" They're like, "Yep." I said, "Okay, hell yeah." Did you grow up there?
No, no, no. I was a military brat. I actually grew up all over. I was born in Ohio.
Where at?
Hey,
I'm.
Dayton.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm from Akron, Cleveland area.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So, born in Dayton, lived there for like 22 months, and then moved to England.
Oh wow.
And then from England to Panama, and then from
Yeah.
Panama to Texas. Stayed Texas for a long time, then moved to Virginia, and that's where I did my formative years and stuff like that. Then I joined the Navy, and then I went all over everywhere.
Okay. Hell yeah. Why? Why the Navy?
I went to the Air Force recruiter because I was gonna join the Navy. So first of all, I gotta tell it by telling this dumb story. I wanted to be a Marine, and I tell all of my Marine friends I wanted to be a Marine, but I couldn't be a Marine because the 8 came before the 0 in my ASVAB score. But
Okay. Okay.
but
So
what
you're not
happened?
a legitimate crayon eater. Got it.
Nah. Unfortunately, I know how to walk and chew bubblegum. So but I went to join up. I was about I gave it the college try of 2 semesters
Gotcha.
because around the half of the first semester I figured out I don't have to go to class. I can go hang out with my friends.
Nice.
It's like I go hang out with my friends and then go to work. Nobody's gonna call my parents and say I was absent and didn't go and all this sorts of other
Right.
stuff. And then it was just like so. But I'd always wanted to join anyway. I saw the movie Aliens and
Oh
wanted to be a
yeah.
Marine. And it sequited into some silly stuff. But so I go to the Marine Corps recruiter and I do all my stuff. I do my own thing. I'd had corrective surgery when I was a baby on my
Okay.
legs.
Mm,
This is peacetime. This is 2001 before the towers fell.
gotcha.
So this is peacetime.
Uh
The
huh.
Marines are like, hey, we looked at your records. We looked at your records, and with the surgery you had and everything else, you'll crush the bones below your knees doing our training. So
Mm.
we can't take you. And
Jeez.
I was upset because I'm like, you're saying this to me. I've played football for almost a decade. Like
Uh huh.
I've done a bunch of like rough stuff. So I'm just sitting there like, what do you mean? And then I'm just like, but I was sad because I was like, my dreams got crushed.
Yeah.
And then it's like the recruiter she calls me back, and she's like, hey, I didn't know if you wanted me to do this, but I put your paperwork in with the Navy. And she's like, and depending on what job you get with the Navy, you
Yeah.
could work hand in hand with the Marines and stuff like that. And I was like, some old consolation prize BS. So I'm like, oh, I'm like, all right, cool, whatever. And then she called me. She called me 3 days later and was like, "You ready to go to boot camp?" And I was like,
Whoa.
"Yeah, hey." And I was like, "Hey." So went to boot camp in Great Lakes because they had just
Nice.
closed. They had just closed the Navy Training Center in Orlando. So
Okay.
I missed the last class for that by a week.
Oh man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Florida. Hell yeah.
Right? But Chicago,
Uh huh.
but Great Lakes, and then I went out to the fleet. And then I was out at I'd been at my first ship probably for about a month when when 9/11 happened. And
Whew.
the funniest part about that was it happened. There was like this 3 day communication blackout, and then on the fourth day, I get a call from the Marine Corps recruiting center. The staff sergeant that was there, that was above my recruiter, had
Yeah.
called me and said, "Hey, you still want to join the Marines? I think we can get you there."
What? Oh my god.
I had to tell him. I had to tell him like I'm already in, man. I'm stationed in Norfolk, and he's like, "Oh, all right. Well, good luck."
Oh my god, that's wild.
I ran into him in Iraq.
No shit.
No
Okay.
shit. I ran into him in Iraq. I ran into one of my drill instructors. We call them RDCs, recruit division commanders. But I ran into one of my drill instructors in the Gulf while I was doing anti-piracy ops. And it's weird running into these people that you're like, they're over you, and you run into them in the wild because then you're just like,
Uh-huh.
it's completely different yet not because you're conditioned to be like, oh my
Right.
god, and then they're like, eh.
Yeah. I saw my senior drill instructor in Okinawa. Okay. I went to this thing called Chaser School. So I became this chaser. It's where some of the prisoners, the on base,
Yeah.
the military, prisoners, whatever, they need to go out and do. It's like their minimum security, whatever. They haven't done. So maybe they bounced a bunch of checks. This is back in 1990. Okay, I was in Okinawa, and so bouncing checks was like a thing, right? And so it might be something like that, but something minor. And we would go. So there'd be two of us in the back of the van with two prisoners, and and then we just had like a stick and handcuffs. So I went to this chaser school. So we go to this little thing. And then you have a driver, and they drop them off, and somebody walk them in with let them do their banking and whatever kind of thing they had to do, services or whatever, or take them to the dentist and stuff. But I'm standing outside the van waiting for them to come out of this building, and my senior drill instructor comes up. He was walking by, and I was like, "Oh my god, I recognize that dude." And I saw his name tag. It was Staff Sergeant High. Well, he was a gunny now, and I was like, "Oh my god!" I mean, as soon as I saw him, I just had this flashback to boot camp and And then we started talking, and I was like, "Dude, it's pretty cool, like, oh, he's normal, you know."
It's the weirdest part because they talk to you and they're like, "You're a human now," and I'm like, "I'm a human."
What? I made it. I do matter, damn it. Okay. Uh, for real. Okay. Yeah, that's cool, man. And then, so you traveled around. I talked to somebody. I had somebody on here. He's got a YouTube channel. It's called Muddy Reviews, and he is actually going through the separation process now for retirement. He was in the Navy for almost 20 years, I guess, but he was a river rat, and I never really knew much about that. I mean, I've seen videos and here and there, but I've never talked to somebody that was in that field. But anyway, yeah, I've had him on here.
When they reactivated the Riverine project, I wanted to go, and then they sent me to RP school because
Okay.
they were like, you got to do one of these things to reenlist, and I was like, okay, cool, I'll go GM because that's what I want to do, just go gunner's mate. And then
Yeah.
they were like, well, you got to pick three. So I was like, all right, cool, fine, fuck it, I'll do gunner's mate. Then I think I picked Fire Controlman FC because I was going to go to. My plan was, I was like, if I don't make GM and I make FC, I can go to vertical launch school. I'll get put on destroyers, but I get like the crazy bonus.
Oh, that's cool.
And then they were like, well, you need to pick one more, and I was like, all right, well, what's green side that's not corpsman because I'm definitely not going to core school. And they're like, well, there's RP, and I was like, what's an RP? And they're like, religious program specialist, and then I'm like, so they read through that, and I'm like, all right, fine, just put it on the list. I didn't think anything about it when I put it on. Like I think I'd met maybe one RP prior to that.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I wasn't thinking anything about it, and I was like, whatever, just put it on the list because I was expecting to get a call back from either the GMs or the FCs, and it was like almost an immediate turnaround for RP. They were like, yeah, do this. So then I was like,
Wow.
oh man. So went to A school for that. Went to A school for that. Then I had to go to Camp Johnson.
Yeah.
I had to go to Camp Johnson to do FMS training,
Okay.
which was which was phenomenal and fun.
What'd you guys do there?
So I would. It's basic. I'll put it. How do I
Is it
describe
like
it?
confidence
It's
course
basic.
stuff?
No, it's basically a dumbed down version of Marine Corps boot camp.
Okay. Okay.
Like you start learning like because they want you basically to learn how to do things in the field and stuff like that. So you get like land nav, you get the dirty obstacle course where it's like crawl through the barbed wire and the
Uh
mud and
huh.
all this other stuff. Learn how to keep your weapon clean. Do this and like
Yeah.
so. And I say it as a dumbed down marine because like of all the branches, even though we like make fun of Marines and stuff like that for being dumb and crayon eaters and all
Sure.
sorts of other
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
like the level of discipline it takes to be a Marine is why that title, like they say, you earn it. It's
Oh yeah.
proudly earned, and you never lose it because it's
Uh
like,
huh.
yeah, you. So it was that. It was just a dumbed down version of that, and then that
Yeah.
was cool. But I did all that, and then they sent me to a staff command, and that's why I was in Japan.
Oh, okay.
Because I was sitting there going, okay, cool. I'm gonna make either first Mar, second Mar div. I'm gonna end up in either in Afghanistan or Iraq. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm all prepared. I'm like, cool. Everything's and they're like staff command, Yakuza, and I was like, you know that before this I was a BM, so my dealings with officers were like me cussing at them to get out of my space. Like,
Oh man.
and then like, no, no, you're gonna be working for me and stuff like that. So I went over. The blue side of the job is not that bad, but it got me to Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it got me to Afghanistan, but it got me to Afghanistan working for the army. So that was fun.
Oh, okay.
So I did the my last that was my last deployment was the individual augmentee there, and I was there for about 8-ish months.
Now, how
So
did you like Japan when you got there?
Japan,
Yeah.
Japan was awesome. Although, so Japan made me feel like the fat chick on the cheerleading squad. Like I'm I'm on the squad and I know I'm pretty, but for some reason, because it's like no, because it's like
You
all the
stand out a
stores.
little.
Well, I was well one Japanese women love melanated dudes. It was fun being there for that. But then I was like I was big and I was like jacked kind of.
Uh huh.
So so yeah. So and then I used to go to the karaoke bar all the time and stuff like that, and it was cool and stuff like that. But yeah, I had a blast in Japan mainly because I got to go do everything. I got to go up and ride the bullet train,
Oh,
and
nice,
then I climbed Fuji, and
bro.
then
That's cool. Yeah.
but the thing about it is once you do all the stuff. I went to Iwo. I didn't get
Okay.
to I didn't get to get on the island, but the ship that I was on, we were
Yeah.
there, so that was cool. But it was like one of the things where it's like once you do all the stuff on the island, then it's just like you fall into the habit of okay, well I've done all the historic stuff. I've seen the palaces. I've done all the temples. I've done
Mm-hmm.
all the things that I need to do. I did the polar bear challenge and stuff like that. I'm like I'm kind of
Oh,
done
that's
doing
wild.
things. I
Yeah.
guess I guess now it's time to drink seriously.
Yep. Uh huh. I think the first month I was in Japan, I did all this stuff, man. I just like I took a scuba class. I went to I found this Kayukshin or Kayukshin. I don't know how you say it, but it was one of the martial arts there. There was Shoinryu, and then there was Kayukshin. I went to Shoinryu, and that was more like a big class like kata, And
Yeah.
then there was Kayukshin. One of my buddies went to it. He said, "Dude, you got to come over there and check this out. This is like, it's almost like Kenpo. So it's really straightforward, kind of end the fight as fast as possible, like break a bone kind of thing, right?" And so I was the punching dummy the first day. So I had the big chest pad on and the helmet, the pad on my head and everything, and I'm just holding arm pads. So this the instructor was Japanese, but he was mixed. I'm not sure if it was Caucasian or some other, but he was big. Japanese are short. This
Yeah.
dude was like 6 foot, okay, and was jacked. And he does this, kick on, like a roundhouse kick on me. Even with all the pads on, I felt like all my bones broke. Okay, I said, "Oh shit!" But luckily, when you're that young and in shape, you heal quickly. But yeah, I was the punching dummy, the first one. So I did all these different things. I went to the gym, met up with some of the guys that were on the Marine Corps bodybuilding team and weightlifting team and all that kind of shit. And I was like, oh yeah, me and my one buddy that got stationed the same day. We're like, yeah, we're gonna work out all the time. We're gonna go. We're gonna learn how to scuba. I want to go to Japanese, language classes. And then that lasted for a month. And then the rest of the 11 months was drinking and sex and what bar can't we go to because they serve some drinks with opium in it, because it's legal over there. I'm like, oh, let's go try that one. And then the snake shows and banana shows, bro, it was crazy.
Invited to one of the private clubs, the Yakuza run clubs, because
Oh shit.
it was me and a buddy of mine. We were going to our normal karaoke bar,
Yeah.
and we saw this dude. He wasn't like getting jumped, but like these dudes were like talking shit to him and then doing like the whole like post up on him and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know why we got involved, other than we were just like probably. I think I was just pissed off for the day anyway, so I was like, "Fuck it, let's go have a fight."
Let's get in a fight, man. Hell yeah.
Yeah. So we roll up on the guys that are on the dude, and kind of tell them like to leave him alone and stuff like that, and they're looking at us acting, and then one of them spoke it. One of them spoke English.
Mm.
I think all of them knew English, but one of them actually spoke it. So he starts kind of like making fun of us, like half Japanese, half English, and then gaijin this and that, and I'm like,
Yeah, I was gonna say, was he Gaijing? Yeah.
yeah. So then what do you do? I think he pulled a knife, and when he pulled the knife, my buddy just hit the dude that was in front of him. I took his arm, and I wasn't even intending to do this. I took his arm and I hip tossed him, and I was just going to lock his arm in so that he'd let go of the knife,
Yeah.
and that thing snapped, and I was
Oh
like,
shit.
yeah. So then I'm sitting there like, fuck. We're in this now. So I'm waiting on the
Uh-huh.
other. I was waiting on the other dude to like come over, and he just ran the fuck like full blast ran away from us and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And so this guy like does the head bow. So we do the head bow and you're welcome and stuff like that. And we're like thinking like we gotta get the fuck out of here because
Uh-huh.
so we're like, yeah, you're welcome and stuff like that. And he gave us this black card or whatever, and we took it and we left and stuff like that. So then I go to the karaoke bar, and I'm telling the owner. We called him Ben. His name was like some long ass shit, but we
Right.
called him Ben. And I'm like, hey Ben, man, this dude, blah blah blah, and he gave me this card, and he looks at the card, and like his face kind of like, and it's like that's serious, man. He's like, you don't want to mess with that, and I was like, okay, whatever, and stuff like that. I was like, where do I give the card back then? And so he told
Right.
me where. So he told me where the club was. So I went
Okay.
to the club, and I was going to give the card back, and I ran into the guy at the front of the club, and he's like, oh. And he brought me in and stuff like that. And then it's like, as
Okay.
I'm sitting there, and I'm looking around, and that's why I'm like, you see the tattoo, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, and I'm like, oh fuck,
Oh my
I'm like,
God.
I'm like, did I just join the yakuza?
Oh shit, dude. That's wild.
So
Yeah.
that was actually fun. But the weird part about Japan was like finding out that like 80% of the population speaks English, but if they don't speak it well, they won't talk to you. And then
Right.
if you're being rude, they really just let you like sink. Because I remember
Uh-huh.
I had the help me, I'm lost and I need to I need to find my way back to the base card.
Right. Yes.
So I'm sitting there I'm reading it to this old lady, and I'm like
Old Mama
butcher
San.
just butchering the Japanese and stuff like that. And she's
Yeah.
looking at me, her head's kind of cocked to the side, and I'm like, oh, she doesn't understand what I'm saying. I was like, and then I tried to like show it to her so she could read it,
Yeah.
and she just starts laughing. And in this British accent, it was funny. She's like, your Japanese is fucking terrible, and I'm just like,
Oh,
what?
that's awesome.
And then she's like, you need to get on that train. She showed me the trains that I needed to get on, and then I got back, but I got lost in Tokyo,
Oh my God. That's wild.
and then it was my first. So it was messed up because it was my first time in Tokyo, and nobody told me for some reason. Nobody told me the train stopped running at midnight.
Huh.
So I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know that when I first went out. So I'm going out and I'm thinking, all right, I'll just come back later. And like everybody's like starting to leave, and they're like, I'm like, no, I'll just come back later. I'll just go back later. I'm like, yeah, I'll just go back late. Hit the gate around like 2ish in the morning. It'll be fine.
Right.
No, I got stuck. I got stuck at a club till 4,
Oh
and
shit.
then I had to wait at the train station an hour so that before the first train ran. And when the first train ran, I got off in Yokohama, and I didn't know. I couldn't read what the connecting was, and at first I thought I was like
Uh-huh.
lost. And I'm like, oh fuck, and I don't have a phone, and I can't call anybody. I was like,
That'd be
shit.
wild. Like, oh
Yeah.
shit, I'm gonna end up in the mountains somewhere. I don't
And
even
then,
know, bro.
right, and then I'm sitting there like and it was weird because I'm sitting there like I need to run into like a white person or something because maybe they'll at least know where I have to go. I was Yeah, and then I ran into the old lady and I was like okay, I just read the card and
Yeah.
she told me the trains I got. So yeah, no, Japan was great, and like I said, I played paintball. I'd done paintball before that. I didn't even know anything about it. I got stationed at China Lake, which is the weapons station up near 29 Palms.
Mm.
The naval weapons station,
Uh-huh.
middle of the high desert in California.
Oh
And
yeah.
I ran into my buddy, and then my buddy's like, hey, have you heard of Airsoft? I'm like, Airsoft? What are you talking about? And then he showed me, like his garage was like, so he had all of his real stuff over on the right side, and then it's like this whole wall full of airsoft guns over on the left, and I'm thinking it's just all guns, and I'm like, bro, I'm not joining a militia.
It's funny.
But now he showed me, I was like, cool, and then I've been in it ever since then. So I've been in airsoft since winter of '06.
Okay. Yeah, man. You're
Yeah.
a real veteran airsofter.
Oh, long time. So
Hmm.
I got to see the invention of things. I got to see the hop ups improve. I got to see the nozzles improve. Like I got to see the differences in what springs do and everything else and stuff like that.
All the different HPA engines and shit.
I got to see the normalization to metal
Ah,
because most guns before like they would make them they were making them in plastic and then they were like, well, no, we'll do the woven polymer stuff, and then it's like, all right, cool, it's stronger and it's not creaky and it doesn't
yeah.
crack and everything else. And then they were just like, you had the high end guns were all
Okay.
metal or aluminum and stuff like that, and then the normalization that all guns are now just metal. except for Tokyo Marine. But all guns are metal, and then you're just
Yeah.
like, oh, cool. And then yeah, so I got to watch the evolution of the sport, and then I'm like, as I'm watching the evolution of the sport at the time, I'm like, airsoft's gonna be so much bigger, and you're gonna be able to do this, and we're gonna be able to do this, and one day we'll do. And then it's just like it's nice to see where it's going, and it actually helped me out a lot, like as far as like after getting out, transitioning, and everything else, because like PTSD is no joke.
Yeah, I was gonna say you went to you said you went to Iraq, Afghanistan, like so was that after Japan, right?
So Afghanistan was after Japan. Iraq and the Gulf were before Japan.
Okay.
So I did the invasion. I did the invasion with the Magnificent Seven,
Mm,
um, and that was that was like the start. Like we saw the Bunker Hill shooting the first rockets for shock and awe. Like
wow.
they were literally off our aft, just fire. Like because I was comforting a friend of mine because we had just done the we just done the oh, what am I forgetting the acronym? Radiological, biological stuff like that. We just done the training with our
Okay.
mop suits and everything else and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah,
Yep.
the was it the NBC? When
Yeah.
I was on the NBC team. Yeah, the nuclear, biological, chemical warfare stuff.
So
Yep. Okay.
we had literally just finished our NBC training and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and she's standing there and she looks weird. So I'm looking at her. I'm like, Casey, you good? And she just busts out crying and screams, "I don't want to die!" and just runs off.
Oh shit.
So, so I found her later on. Well, later on while she was on watch, I'm sitting down with her. I'm like, look, it's gonna be cool and stuff like that. We're out here in on the sea, and I know they're giving us all this training because they're talking about Saddam's gonna launch missiles at us and all this other stuff.
Well,
But the
that was a
bottom
real
line,
thing, man. That was a real threat.
wait,
Like the
wait.
biological shit, the chemical.
Oh no, I'm gonna get to that, right? So I'm calming her down and stuff like that, and I'm like, look, just look, like see the night sky. We're just out here enjoying ourselves and everything. Look, there's a shooting star right there, and another one, and and another one,
What?
and I'm like, the fuck? And then I look, and then I could see the flashing from them firing,
Oh my
and
god.
let me get your binoculars. I was like, oh, and so yeah, then we really started tripping out. Like had a bunch of people come running out to the flight deck so they could look and watch and
Uh
stuff like
huh.
that. Somebody brought a radio out and started playing bombs over Baghdad. No
Oh my
bullshit.
god.
We're, we're sitting on the flight deck. We're sitting on the flight deck, just fucking, just going out and stuff like that. And then, yeah, and then the next day, we went up. We dropped. We were dropping the Marines and everything else and stuff like that. And then we had just finished drop. We had like the last load of Marines had just gone out on the LCAC, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, they're like calling emergency, like emergency weigh anchor and all sorts of other stuff because we were anchored. And I was like, what's going on? And they're like, man up the guns. I was like, do I man the guns or do I go to the anchor team? Because I did both.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, go ahead. And when I looked at the anchor team was my first was my so it was two E6s, and I'm like, okay, something's wrong. And then I'm looking over the E5 is on. I'm like, they don't do this shit. They're the safeties and shit. Like they don't do
Yeah.
this.
Right.
But
Especially in E6.
they're bringing the anchor up and stuff like that and everything else. So I'm manning the guns. I'm like, what's going on? My buddy Ray comes down. He's like, yo, they said they're launching missiles at us. And I'm like, no, they're not. No, 2 miles off, 2 miles off the port beam. You just watch this long just splash down. He shot 3 scuds at us. I think one made it out to where we were, and we watched
Yeah.
that splash. It didn't hit anything. It didn't do anything. But I'm just like, oh man, I'm at
That's
war,
right.
and
Oh, that's crazy.
I still didn't feel it. Like I still didn't feel it like the adult version of this is serious and I need to take things serious. until about 3 days later. They had taken the southern oil fields. The Brits had moved through there, and they needed their their ships had gone back to Bahrain, so they needed us to drop off some of the British Marines on the on that little southern tip of Iraq that touches the Gulf. So we went in and did that. We went in and did that, and then one of the LCACs broke down on the beach, and the Brits weren't going to stay around to do security, so they called for the boarding team to go to the beach just to run security and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I was going. I can't remember where I was going, but GMC comes running past me, and I was like, "What's going on, Chief?" And he's like, "Hey, oh yeah, you're 60 quad, right?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come with me." So I go down to the armory. They hand me the 60. I'm like, "Hey, baby," like just being funny and stuff like that and cute. And then they promptly hand me 1,600 rounds,
Woo.
and I'm like, what do I need this many rounds for?
Uh
And
huh.
then my buddy Ray comes down. He's a gunning for me, and they hand him 2 barrels and 1,600 rounds. I'm like, okay, what the fuck do we need all this ammo? First of all, where did all this ammo come from? Secondly, what do we need this for?
Uh huh.
And then they're like, yep, you're going to the beach, blah 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 blah. And then that's pretty much when I had my come to Jesus moment. Oh man, some stuff's
Mm-hmm.
gonna happen.
Right.
Nothing happened.
Okay.
Nothing happened. Just 3 days. We got hit with a sandstorm. So 3 days covered in sand, just hyper vigilant and everything else. It was not that bad. The first deployment with the invasion, it was really just a matter of it wasn't that bad. It's weird to say it wasn't that bad because like it was just a lot of high tension and then nothing
Mm-hmm.
happening. And the only time I really got into anything anything where I really thought I was going to die, we took our XO upriver, up the Tigris. I think we were meeting some Marines up at a bridge that they had to cross, and we started taking small arms fire, and they located the building that the small arms fire was coming from, and then they evaporated it. So
Wow.
I got to watch what an artillery strike looked like, and that was like weird. And then they were like, "Hey, we need to cross over. Whose boat is that?" And I'm like, I drove the boat. So they let me drive. They let me drive a squad across the river. They went up and did like damage assessments and stuff like that. And that was my never meet your heroes moment because like the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, Marines, they're professionals, they're this, that, and the other, and these guys went up. These guys went up. They were looking. They started picking up body parts and kind of like just tossing them into a pile and stuff like that. And then they were
Mm-hmm.
like just kicking stuff over. I'm like, don't we have to set up a perimeter? Don't we wait for more people to come over? Like where's my movie stuff?
Uh huh.
Like now. So it was then I was like, you know what? No, maybe this is where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So, but that was Iraq, and then we went back to the Gulf to protect ABOT and KBOT, the two oil platforms that are out there, and that's when I did the anti-piracy stuff. And that's really when I got into like doing stuff
Yeah.
because we were on the boarding teams, so we did all the compliant boardings. We did a bunch of the non-compliant boardings. We did the fast team follow-ups, which was we boarded a ship after the fast team had been there and basically bagged everybody,
Mm-hmm.
bagged everybody, and we're escorting the biometrics team that was going around doing.
Whew.
That was when I got to experience one of the things that I this is the story I tell people when I want to tell them because they do people ask you that have you been to combat, have you seen things and stuff like that, and that's
Right.
when I hit them with this story. So me and my buddy were putting this body in a body bag, and it looked like he'd just been like stitched up. Like you could see like the the darker areas where the bleed through was,
Uh huh.
but it looked like he'd only like been hit like maybe 3 times or something like that.
Mm.
Well, he wasn't whole. So when we went to pick him up,
Ooh.
we picked him up, and he kind of like came apart at the shoulders.
Oh.
Came apart at the shoulders, and his head fell off.
Woo.
And I'm looking at this, and my buddy's looking at me, and he looks me dead in my eye, and he goes, "This is not the way to college." And then we busted out laughing, and then put the guy in the body bag. And that's
That's
I tell people, I was like, that's where the dark humor comes from, because it's like,
right.
what how else do you react to that?
Yep. Well,
Now
that's like.
fast forward.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say fast forward. I told that same story to a mental health specialist, because I wanted to actually go meet up with somebody, and
Yeah.
yeah,
They were like, no, we got a problem here.
I kind of completely disturbed her. So I was like, can't come here anymore.
Isn't that weird? So I had one of the guys I had on Hell Yeah Airsoft. He he was an army vet and was in combat and stuff. And he said this. He said they made me go through that processing or whatever, for the mental health, whatever it was, they made me see a shrink. He goes, I wish I would have never gone. He said, I know people say it's better if you just talk about it, but it's really not. He goes, for me, it wasn't. It was just like they kept just making you rehash this whole thing. It's like, dude, how many times do I have to talk about it to make you understand? Like, I'm done talking about it. And yeah, so that can be, there's
No,
not really
I
easy
agree with
way
that. I agree with that, but I'm like, it also depends on who you talk to, because like,
for sure.
so like when I got back from Afghanistan, keep in mind, I'm already kind of dealing with it, because like, after the thing about that deployment was the anti-piracy deployment. I went through it, but I went there with on the ship, so I went there with people. I went
Hmm.
there with I was on the VBSS team, so I had the team to talk to. So it's like we could talk to each other about everything
Right.
that we saw, process it, and everything else and stuff like that. And then we had the whole trip back to kind of like commiserate and stuff like that. But like, you still come out with stuff and things like that. Like, that's when I started having trouble sleeping. That's when,
Yeah. Okay.
and everything else. That's when my drinking got a little bit heavier. But then I was like, I recognized my drinking was getting heavier, so I kind of like scaled it back. But it was still one of those things where I was like, I was still drinking and medicating. So like, when I went to Afghanistan as an individual augmentee, we did group training at Fort Jackson, and then the guys that you're training with there, like all Navy dudes, were doing NARMY training. That's what they called it. Um,
Narmy. Okay.
so we're
Navy
sitting there.
Army.
Yep. So we're sitting there doing that, basically getting ready to go over to Afghanistan. And they're giving us these warnings where they're basically saying, "Hey, this is a new program. The Army doesn't really know what to do with you, and they've been sending people who definitely like aren't qualified to do certain things out to do things." So then I'm sitting there, and I was like, I know what I'm qualified to do, and I'm like, well, what if I have the qualifications to do the stuff they're asking me to do? And they're like, you just remind them that you're there to do admin work or whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, we'll see how that works. So we first thing that happened was I ended up on a crew serve weapon on top of a Humvee, because I was qualified on a 50.
Hmm.
So, but I digress. I went over. So the group that we trained with, we kind of held together, and then you get to where you're going and you scatter. So I reported in. I reported in by myself. I went through the experiences with the army guys that I was with and stuff like that, and I'm still friends with those dudes today.
Yeah.
The ones that are still here. Like, we're all cool and stuff like that. But then it's like I came home alone.
Right.
Like I came. It was like I came home. I was with some special forces dudes when I got to Kuwait. Because we were waiting to go through SIF and then come back.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we came back, it was like, I saw those guys on the plane, and then we hit BWI, and then I'm on a plane by myself heading back to China Lake. And I get there, and they had the whole like support group, but the people who had gone IA, it was like three guys and me, and all three of those, well, three guys and me. Two of those dudes went to the drone base in Florida, and then the other dude went to Kuwait.
Okay.
Like he was just in Kuwait. So I'm like, I can't talk to these guys.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I was struggling. My drinking started getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and I'm gonna get. I'm like, it's weird to be self aware that something's wrong with you,
Yeah.
but unable to do a damn thing about it. And I'm like, I'm sitting there, so I'm sitting there like I'm going fucking crazy. And then I just happened to go over to the VFW, and there was a meeting going on with some Vietnam combat vets,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the guys that held me together long
Really?
enough, long enough to not get in trouble. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because then so yeah, and then it was cool talking to them. You'd hear some of their stories, and you're like, you're thinking I've been through some shit, and then you hear like some of the stuff they went, and like I haven't been
Yeah.
through anything. But yeah, they helped me and kept me in perspective and stuff like that. But and then airsoft was a way to get the nervous energy out. So like the the overall training and stuff like that that they do for like CQC and all that other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it becomes kind of a nervous tick of things that you do. You start like
Right.
you'll go into a door, and you'll immediately go to you'll go to clear the corner, and then and people are just looking at you funny, and then it's like I could do that, and like I got to get that nervous energy out while playing airsoft because I got to do a lot of the stuff and then everything else, and then it was really good getting to like mentor like kids that
Mm-hmm.
are in the sport, because you get the little kids that are in the sport that want to do stuff, and you're like, well, go do this, and then they do it, and then you're like, all right, cool, and then
Right.
stuff like that. So that actually helped calm me a lot, and so that's why I pretty much stuck with it.
Yeah.
And then when I moved back to Texas, I was like, I'm leaving California. I'm never gonna play airsoft again. And then I moved down here, and I discovered the third coast. Like